Isil, hello.
Hello.
Very lovely to be with you today, and it's a great opportunity to interview you because you have been a member for a few years with Toastmasters, and more recently, you are a reigning district champion for table topics. I'd like to ask you a few questions today, and it's great that you made the time and you agreed. I'd like to start with a basic question. What drew you to Toastmasters and why did you join?
I have heard Toastmasters from Elena. I think it's the first time, fellow member of Prostmasters and my colleague and friend. When I met her, she wasn't actively going to the club as far as I know, but she had mentioned that she knew some people from there and that was very helpful. And I had always a bit of a problem with public speaking. When I was working with her on our coaching workshops and we were delivering some trainings and I was able to do that, but I always had really tension in my body. I wanted it to be over very quickly. I was blushing all the time. It didn't feel naturally at all. And that was already for me a huge growth from where I was, completely panicked and just hiding under the table if possible. I had a big trauma about public speaking and I was able to come to that level, but it didn't move forward. I wasn't comfortable at all. So I thought, all right, Toastmasters, it seems like it's helpful. Let me visit. And through Elena, I was also connected with Ineke. So I asked Ineke, I knew she was the most experienced Toastmaster around me. Which club should I visit? What do you suggest? She said, well, my club is Prostmasters, but I would suggest you to try many and decide. So I visited Prostmasters, and that day I fell in love with this club. I was mesmerized by the speeches, the fun people were having, and especially the table topics. I was wondering how on earth can a person go on stage and make a proper speech so comfortably without knowing in advance what they were going to talk about. And I said, all right, I'm going to join this. It felt right. For me, the best decisions come from gut feeling. And when I visited first time the Prostmasters, I had this gut feeling that I want to be here. So that's how my story with Toastmasters began.
And how many years ago was that?
I think that's 2000. I wonder if it's 2018 April or 2019 April.
Okay, so 2 or 3 years
18.
And look at you, you're already the reigning district champions for the discipline that caused intense fear a few years back. What happened since joining and until then last year?
I had intense practices around being comfortable with myself on stage with other people present. I think what I did was when I decided to join, I went full in somehow. That's not normal of me, actually. Maybe it wasn't normal of my old self that I used to take time to analyze and to only commit when I see exactly things getting in place. But with Prostmasters, I wanted to start giving myself immediately. So I started, I think in April I started, then I volunteered for becoming an officer. And I joined in the officer team as a secretary the first year. And then the second year I continued as, what was it? Was I already the president?
VP Education, I believe.
No, I didn't do this role in Prostmasters. I did it in Isil Speak.
Sorry.
So I was already president, I think, the second term. So then that should be 2019 when I joined, probably. Anyway, so I went in, and by committing in that way to the club, I also committed to a certain growth path for myself. First of all, because I was so interconnected with the club, I just visited nearly every meeting. And I was one of the first people, maybe the first person that went on the Pathways journey. I started my first speech on Pathways. And because back then our VP Education, Stephanie, was making sure that some of us get faster and get the experience so they can share with others, I registered for speeches, I signed up and I showed up. So I was on average, maybe monthly doing one speech, or it might be even like every second meeting I was doing a speech. So imagine me from zero going so frequently on stage. It enabled me to familiarize myself. This is what I see as the biggest learning, what happened from that till the winning. I think I always feel this tension and stress, but now that it's familiar to me, so I have so much familiarity because I practice so many times, then I don't need to pay extra attention to everything happening in my body. I can relax with the knowing that I survive through this, and I'm even able to communicate. And on top, I can convince or inspire. That knowledge settles me into my body. It's still weird. It's still a bit exciting. Then I have the possibilities to work with this because it's familiar. And on the other hand, I have tools that I learned on the path that helps me to structure my thinking, structure my speech. Even if I'm lost, I have the space holders for myself that I can turn back to. I know my beginning, I know my ending, so I can always navigate in between and go wild and create in the moment. So these practices enabled me, I think, to trust myself more and to go and compete, dare to compete.
That's amazing. Can you share some of your tools that you had? You talked about a structure. What kind of structure do you have in your mind when you're given a topic, and do you have those few seconds before throwing yourself into cold water and starting your impromptu speech?
Yeah. What I was talking about structure was for the bigger speeches. When we talk about table topics, there are a lot of course, experience transferred from the bigger speeches, bigger 5 to 7 minutes, to the 2-minute speeches. The structure is how to start the speech in an engaging way. Usually for me, the familiar tool for me is a question. I throw in a question. Then I work with the question. There is a certain direction coming out from the way I think about it. I summarize what I said, and in the end leave a message to the audience, or again end with another question. Overall, it's like, how do I start with a question? How do I leave people with a message or a question? And what is the red line of my speech? That would be the main structure that I would work with. And in table topics, again, I think the biggest learning from the previous bigger talks, the Pathways talks that I had, speeches, is the familiarity, the trust that comes with the familiarity, that I'm able to do it. And I noticed that a lot of like success I owe to I'm laughing because I am not a very structured and organized person, and I don't do a lot of preparation for my speeches. So I have practiced not being prepared a lot, which enabled me to tweak it on the speech. So my prepared speeches were my practices for table topics. So that was a benefit for me. I was able to kind of bring out something meaningful because I knew what I generally wanted to talk about. The other thing was like trusting the first instinct, trusting the first idea. I reflected a bit back my last experience of winning. That was a big surprise for me. I wasn't satisfied at all with my speech. After I have spoken, I went out and just like bumped my foot on the floor, complained to my husband, Fabio, a fellow member, that it was like really bad and I didn't know the topic at all. And then I was surprised to find out that it was actually a winner speech. And I think what I did well is to let go of this first disappointment. This is the basic. Usually my immediate reaction is picking up the negativities. I think it's natural of all of our ways that we want to save ourselves, so we notice everything that can go wrong. And when I receive a question, usually I say, oh no, I don't know anything about it. That's terrible. This is my first reaction. I want to just put my defenses up. Then I need to quickly, okay, and then let that go. This muscle of letting go has been a practice for me through disappointments. Like when you practice public speaking in Toastmasters, you don't always have successes. You have also failures. The only way to continue is to let that go and come back to your practice. And I think that has strengthened me a lot, this muscle of, okay, that was that, just let it go and focus now. And that's the basic start for my table topics. I have to like, okay, we are not doing this now. Okay, what is the first idea? And then I trust my first idea and develop it while speaking, because what is the question that this topic makes me think of? What comes immediately to my mind? What is valuable that I can say about it? And while thinking, actually what appears as meaningful, that's my summary, and how that relates to what people think or feel or live in their current lives. This is basically how I deal with table topics. And that's a table topics, I believe, is also great practice for life as well, because of all these muscles you are working with, the creativity, trusting yourself, letting go, coming back and focusing and making sure what you say is understandable and meaningful for other people.
Fantastic. That's really a great insight. I also picked up on the fact that it seems like you're also kind of connecting dots with different ideas and things like that. And with connecting dots, I wonder, can you share what skills you think are important to succeed in table topics? And if there are any transferable skills that you have from other parts of your life that may be useful?
Yeah. I think I'm lucky because I like writing. I do spend a lot of time thinking, reflecting on my experience, finding out what is meaningful for me that might be useful for others. I blog, I have a podcast, so I have this prior work about my own stories and what I think of things. Actually, writing is for me a way of thinking. Sometimes I just write, what am I thinking about this? Because I do that work, I have in my awareness or in my toolbox possible contexts and ideas and stories. When I hear something coming to me, it's easier for me to light a bulb and then take this and work with it, because I have already, so when I can take this to my speech, I have already something done and reflected and thought about it. So that might be making it easier for me. And if that would be, if someone wants to get successful in their table topics, it works to have reflected on your own life, the stories that make impact you, or the questions that you find difficult to answer, but take time to think, how is this relating to myself? What I can do about it? What is in my life? What my life reveals to me? Really about like taking time to think is, I think, very useful for also speaking, but also for your life. And that has been one of my tools that helped me in table topics. What other connections? I would say meditation. I do meditate, and meditation has supported me in every sense. I think the biggest muscle that it worked again is this ability of noticing when I diverge and then bring my focus back, the mindfulness. And there's a certain compassion because this noticing and bringing back can also happen in a way that you say, you again disturbed your own meditation. Whereas you are gentle, this gentleness with yourself, I think that meditation has helped a lot to me. Well, I do coaching, and I think that coaching is very related with meditation and writing and reflection, being able to ask questions, being able to listen to the question, listen to yourself, the audience. Probably that has helped as well. I think listening is very interesting because I realized a couple of times I actually didn't listen to the question that was being asked in table topics. Thank God that didn't happen in the bigger contests, but I think in club contests I answered to a different question a couple of times.
Speaking of that, can you give us an example of a topic that you've come across in the area division or district contest, and what you thought of it and how you turned the topic around, perhaps? What happened in your mind when you were doing that?
Yeah. The last question that I was asked that I was very annoyed about and I needed to kind of let go of my disappointment and answer was that homeschooling is the future. And my immediate reaction is, what? I don't have kids. I don't care about homeschooling. Why couldn't you choose another question? And the idea I took my time. This is, I think, important. Not rushing into certain direction because there is this, I want to get rid of this as quick as possible. I told you I go with the first idea, but I still choose the idea, or I allow myself for the idea to come. This requires a bit of patience. I think I took like 40 seconds probably thinking about it, which can be quite awkward standing in front of camera looking, and you shouldn't move because if you move, the timer starts. And the first thing that came to me, school, what would school mean to me as a child, what I liked as a child. It immediately connected to, again, a known story to me that I previously spoke about and written about, and it's very important in my life, that I didn't choose to go for a job or a profession that I knew I was talented at, because the school system doesn't value that path of life as a successful path. That was ready for me, and I could connect the word homeschooling immediately to my schooling experience and something that is important in my life. And I worked with that question, how would it be if you could choose to arrange your schedule in the way that you wanted, where you could focus on topics that you are genuinely curious about, and the other topics that you have to learn, but you just learn enough and not spend all your time equally in both cases. If in my case, how would I be if that was dance or theater or performance? Who would I become if I could do that? And then question back to you, how would you be if you could choose how to spend your time educating yourself. You could have decided on your own education. So that was my thought pattern when I got the question. Yeah. Still, when I think about it, I don't like my answer, but you can never change. You have to trust, because you have one moment, one action possibility. You just go with what comes. You don't have time to disagree with yourself. You have to agree and trust yourself fully to go with it. So,
and just go with it and go with the flow. That's amazing.
exactly.
Thank you. Do you have any advice for fellow postmasters and fellow Toastmasters in the meetings themselves, in the contest circuit? What would be your one advice?
One advice.
We can see the reflection there again.
I think that's it's not a good advice. I think loving themselves. I see a lot of emphasis on the structure and how things should be like, then passionately communicating what feels right in their own truth and in their own way, and then connecting somehow to the audience. That automatically, when somebody speaks about something that they are passionate about and genuinely, of course, genuinely interested and curious about, it already has energy and potential. I would ask them to give this gift to themselves, to think of what I enjoy, what I'm curious about, what is important to me in my life, and how can I bring it more to the world, to my speeches, to my life, to myself. And that would translate, I think, to table topic success, to other successes. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think I'm also not yet great at it, but I'm getting there. This understanding myself and communicating in my own way. That would be my suggestion.
Oh, definitely great advice. And hopefully the feedback that is received from fellow Toastmasters during the meetings is also contributing to, consolidating that self-esteem or the love of what we do.
Yeah, we have a great community, and I am hoping
supportive.
So. I'm hoping so. For me, it was life-changing. I still, it has changed how I viewed myself, because I received feedback telling me I had a good voice, which I was thinking the opposite of. I thought I had like a Bugs Bunny kind of voice, and I used it that way. Or I heard that I was using my mimics in a way that I was always sad rather than happy. Like the feedback comes in a way that it tells you about also who you are, not only how you speak, and it has been always very loving. So I'm hoping everybody gets the same benefit and they see how it connects to who they are.
Great. Well, Isil, thank you very much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your tips, and everything with us. And I know that you're also in contests this season again, so we wish you the very best of luck for the season ahead and in the years to come. And thanks also for your leadership as a former president of Postmasters and as an officer in other clubs. So thanks for everything you do for the Toastmasters and all the members.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure and honor to be here.